Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something that trips people up a lot in the trucking world. We're talking about the core differences between being an owner-operator and working for a carrier.
Yeah, it's a big point of confusion.
Right. So our mission today is pretty simple. Cut through that noise, give you the clear picture, whether you're just curious or maybe, thinking about a career change.
Exactly. Because they sound similar, maybe, but they're fundamentally different paths,
Mm.
very different ways to work in trucking. So, yeah, our goal is to just break down what each one really means, look at the upsides and downsides, practically speaking.
And help you figure out which one might actually fit you better.
That's the plan.
Perfect. So we'll explore the details, highlight those key distinctions, and we'll even touch on how you'd get started if that owner-operator path sounds interesting.
So, let's jump in. First
Okay.
things first, the owner-operator. What are we actually talking about here? Okay, so an owner-operator.
Mm.
Fundamentally, it's a truck driver who owns their own truck. They're not just driving, they're running their own independent business.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah, their own boss, not working for a big company as an employee.
Right, so it's way more than just driving. It's like full-on entrepreneurship, but on wheels, which means they're the ones putting up the money, right? Buying or leasing the actual rig.
Yep, that's the big initial step. And then, because it's their business, they have to find their own work, their own loads. That usually means dealing with freight brokers or using online load boards.
Okay, finding the work. And what else falls on their shoulders? It sounds like a lot already.
Oh, it is. It really extends to everything.
Mhm.
All the business tasks
Mhm.
and truck maintenance, super important. Getting their own insurance, handling all the permits, doing their taxes. It's the whole package.
Wow.
But the big upside, the reason people do it often, is they keep most of the profit. There's no company taking a percentage off the top of what they earn from a load.
That makes sense. Huge autonomy, huge potential reward. But yeah, like you said, a lot to manage. Now, I heard there are actually a couple of main ways owner-operators structure their business. It's not just one single model.
That's right. There are two common ways they operate. First, they can operate under their own authority. This means they've actually registered their own trucking business with the government, gotten their own operating authority. That's the MC number you hear about.
Ah, the MC number. Okay.
Yeah. And with that, they find and book their own loads completely independently. They're, truly running their own show.
Total independence. Got it. But what's the other way? I think you mentioned leasing.
Exactly. The second way is being leased to a carrier.
Hmm.
In this case, the owner-operator still owns their truck. That's key. But they operate under the carrier's authority using the carrier's MC number.
Okay, so they're kind of borrowing the carrier's license in a way.
Sort of. The carrier helps them get loads, maybe offers access to things like fuel discounts, sometimes insurance programs. But in return, the carrier takes a percentage of the owner-operator's earnings from those loads.
Interesting. So it's like a hybrid model, almost. Still own the truck, but less of the administrative headache.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
You trade some earnings for less back-end work and maybe more consistent freight.
Okay, so whether they're fully independent or leased, that freedom seems like the big draw. But I'm sure it's not all smooth sailing. What are the real pros and cons when you break it down?
Well, the pros definitely center on that independence. Freedom,
Yeah.
right? You choose your loads, you set your own schedule, you decide your routes, more control. And because you're keeping more of the revenue per load, there's generally a higher earning potential. Plus, you make all the business decisions. Total control.
That sounds amazing, honestly. Especially the choosing your own schedule part. But I'm sensing a but coming. What's the downside to all that control?
There's definitely a but. The cons really revolve around risk and responsibility. Big time. You own the truck, so you have truck payments, insurance, all those fixed costs. Even if business is slow, those bills keep coming.
Oof, yeah. Cash flow risk.
Big cash flow risk.
Yeah.
And all the responsibilities are yours. Unexpected repairs, that's on you. All the paperwork, staying compliant with regulations, which change, by the way, it all falls on your shoulders.
And benefits, like
Thanks.
health insurance, retirement.
Nope. That's another major one. No company benefits. You have to source and pay for your own health insurance, your own retirement savings plan, everything.
Okay, that's a pretty stark contrast. So weighing all that, who is this owner-operator path really best for, would you say?
It's really ideal for drivers who deeply value that independence.
Mm-hmm.
People with a strong entrepreneurial streak. You have to be okay with, even maybe enjoy, the business side of things, not just the driving. And you definitely need some financial cushion to start.
Right, makes sense. Someone who wants to be the captain of their own ship, basically, and is prepared for everything that entails. Okay, so that covers the owner-operator world. a path of, freedom, but also significant responsibility. Let's flip the coin now. What about the other major path? Working for a carrier. Let's understand that side. What exactly is a carrier?
Right, so a carrier is basically just a trucking company. Could be small, could be massive. It's a business that owns multiple trucks, sometimes hundreds or even thousands, and they hire drivers to operate those trucks.
So they own the main asset, the trucks, and they manage the whole operation.
Precisely. They own the trucks the drivers use. And a huge part of what they do is find the loads for their drivers. They usually have dispatchers who handle all that, assigning routes, scheduling freight, takes that whole burden off the driver.
That sounds like a big difference right there, not having to hunt for loads. And I assume they also handle all that complex administrative stuff, insurance, permits.
You got it.
Yeah.
The company deals with all the paperwork, the compliance, making sure everything meets regulations, insurance, permits, safety standards. That's their job, which, lets the driver just focus on driving safely and efficiently.
And benefits. That was a big point for owner-operators having to provide their own.
Yeah, that's a major draw for carriers. Many, especially the larger ones, offer benefits packages. We're talking health insurance, sometimes dental and vision, 401k retirement plans, maybe even paid time off.
Okay, that stability and those benefits sound like a completely different proposition. Now, within carriers, are all drivers just regular employees? Or are there different types?
Good question. There are mainly two types you see. First, you have company drivers. These are employees in the traditional sense. They drive company-owned trucks, get paid a wage, often per mile or sometimes salary, and are on the company's payroll with W-2s.
Standard employee setup. Okay.
Then you also have independent contractors who might work with a carrier. Now, these aren't employees. They might own their truck, similar to the leased owner-operator we talked about. Or sometimes they drive a company truck, but under a contract basis. They operate under the carrier's authority, but the relationship is defined by a contract, not employment. It's a bit more complex.
Okay. So even within the carrier world, there are nuances. But let's focus maybe on the typical company driver for now. What are the main pros and cons of going that route?
The biggest pro, hands down, is usually the steady paycheck. Consistency. You don't have the stress of finding your own loads. The company provides the work.
Less uncertainty.
Much less uncertainty.
Right.
And you have far fewer out-of-pocket expenses. No truck payments, no major maintenance bills. The company handles that. And as we said, those potential benefits are a huge plus. Health insurance, retirement. That's peace of mind for a lot of people.
Yeah, that lack of financial risk regarding the truck itself must be a huge weight-off. But again, I'm guessing there are trade-offs for that stability.
Absolutely. There always are.
Right.
The main trade-off is less freedom. You don't choose your loads or generally your schedule. You follow the company's dispatch and routes.
Less control over your day-to-day.
Exactly. And your earnings per mile are typically lower than what an owner-operator might gross, because the company has its overhead and takes its share. Plus, you have to follow company rules and policies. Less flexibility, more structure. Some people like that, some don't.
Right. You trade some of that potential high income and autonomy for predictability and less personal risk.
That's the core trade-off, yeah. Stability versus freedom, in a nutshell.
So putting it all together, who is the carrier path best suited for?
It's generally best for drivers who prioritize that stability and consistency. People who want a predictable paycheck, don't want the headaches and risks of running a business, and value benefits like health insurance. They just want to focus on driving.
Makes perfect sense. Focus on the driving, let the company handle the rest. Okay, so we've looked at both sides in detail. Owner-operator, carrier-driver. Now let's do a direct comparison. Put them side by side on the key points. This should really help clarify things for anyone listening and weighing their options.
Yeah, this head-to-head is useful. Let's start with the most obvious, truck ownership. Owner-operator, they own or lease their truck. It's their asset, their investment. Carrier-driver. They drive a truck owned by the company. No ownership, no truck payments.
Clear difference.
Okay, next. Control.
Big one. Owner-operator. High control. Chooses loads, schedule, routes. Basically runs their own life on the road. Carrier-driver. Low control. Follows company assignments, routes, schedules set by dispatch.
Right. Then responsibilities.
Owner-operator. Handles everything. Driving, maintenance, insurance, permits, taxes, finding loads, the whole business. Carrier-driver. Primarily focuses on driving. The company handles the truck, the loads, the paperwork, the compliance.
Okay. What about the money? Earnings?
Owner-operator. Higher potential earnings per load keeps most of the revenue, but also has all the expenses and financial risk. Income can be variable. Carrier driver. Steadier, more predictable pay, usually less per mile overall. Much lower personal expenses related to the job.
Got it. Higher ceiling, lower floor for the owner-operator, maybe. That's a good way to think about it, yeah.
How about job security? How does that compare?
It's different. Owner-operator. Security depends on their ability to find loads consistently and manage their business well. It's performance-based, market-based, carrier driver. Generally more stable job security, especially with larger companies that have established contracts and freight volume. Less dependent on individual hustle.
Okay, and finally, let's revisit benefits.
Crucial difference. Owner-operator. Must provide and pay for their own health insurance, retirement plans, paid time off, etc. No safety net there unless they build it. Carrier driver. Often offered benefits like health insurance, 401k, paid leave as part of the employment package. A major stability factor.
Yeah, seeing it laid out like that really highlights the fundamental differences in the two paths. It's not just about driving, it's about a whole lifestyle and business approach.
Exactly. It's about what you prioritize. Autonomy or security, risk or stability.
So let's bring it home for the listener. If you're trying to make this choice, how do you decide? What's the final guidance?
Okay, so boil it down. You should seriously consider the owner-operator route if you really want to be your own boss, you have that entrepreneurial drive. You're okay with handling, maybe even enjoy the business side, the paperwork, the expenses, finding work.
And you need some startup capital, right?
Definitely. You need savings for the truck down payment, insurance, initial operating costs before the money starts rolling in consistently. And you like the challenge of finding your own loads.
So for the independent, business-minded driver.
That's the profile, yeah.
And then conversely, who should lean towards working for a carrier?
The carrier path is likely a better fit if you prefer that steady paycheck and want to avoid the financial risks of owning a truck and running a business, if you don't want the hassle of buying, maintaining, insuring a rig, you just want to drive.
And you like having the work provided.
Exactly. If you appreciate having a dispatcher find loads for you, plan your routes, and importantly, if you're comfortable following company rules and procedures, stability over total autonomy.
Control versus convenience, like you said earlier.
Yep. That's a great summary of the core choice.
Okay. Now, just quickly, for those who heard all that and thought, yeah, owner-operator sounds like me, what are the basic first steps? Just a quick outline.
Sure. If that path appeals to you, here's the rough roadmap. First, obviously, get your CDL, your commercial driver's license. Can't do anything without that.
Step 1, non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Then, the big one. Buy or lease a truck. Decide new or used. Figure out financing. That's a major decision.
Your primary business asset.
Exactly. Then, you need to become a legal trucking business. That means getting your operating authority, your MC number, by registering with the FMCSA.
The official green light to operate independently.
Pretty much. After that, insurance. You absolutely need liability and cargo insurance, non-negotiable for protecting your business.
Okay, licensed, insured, got the truck. Then what?
Then you start finding loads. Use load boards. Popular ones are D8, Truck Stop, or build relationships with freight brokers. And finally, and this is crucial and ongoing, stay compliant. Keep up with DOT inspections, follow hours of service rules, likely using an ELD, electronic logging device, and maintain your truck meticulously.
It's definitely a process, a serious undertaking.
It absolutely is. Rewarding for the right person, but definitely a serious business venture.
So wrapping this all up, if we had to give one key takeaway from this whole deep dive, what would it be?
I think the main thing is that both being an owner-operator and driving for a carrier are valid, often rewarding careers in trucking. There's no single better path. They just offer very different things, different pros, different cons, different demands.
Yeah. And the best choice isn't universal, it's personal. It really hinges entirely on your individual goals, what you're comfortable with risk-wise, and what you actually want out of your work life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about aligning the job with your own priorities.
So as you think about everything we've discussed today, here's something to reflect on. Which path truly feels more like your choice? What drives you more, that pull towards independence? Being your own boss, navigating the challenges yourself? Or is it the comfort, the predictability, the stability that comes from being part of a larger structure? Really think about that fundamental question. Are you driven by independence or by stability? The answer will likely point you down the right road. Thanks so much for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this helped clarify these two important roles in the trucking world.